Play ball. Hot off the press, handicappers from Wager Talk, SportsMemo, and the Gold Sheet have collaborated on the 2023 Wager Talk Media MLB Betting Guide. From World Series odds to regular season win totals and everything in between, this year's betting guide features previews on all 30 teams, all 6 divisions, and season-long awards like the Cy Young, MVP, and Rookie of the Year. Each preview contains key roster acquisitions and departures to help you get up to speed before opening day. Visit wt.buzz/MLB23 to download your free guide, and we'll see you in the batter's box.
Welcome to the NBA Triple Double Show, powered by SportsMemo. I'm your host, Ronald Cabang, also known as handicapper on SportsMemo.com, at handicapper sports on Twitter. I'll be joined by Moneyline Matt to break down 3 games from today's NBA slate. Before we get into those games, though, I do want to talk about what we got going on over at SportsMemo.com. It is $9 Monday. All picks and packages over at SportsMemo.com are just $9 from your favorite SportsMemo handicapper. We also have a promo code here for everyone that is joining the Triple Double panel this week. So that's myself, Matt, Jeff Michaels, and Tony Finn from Wager Talk. It is a 7-day NBA pass from, like I mentioned, from everyone that joins the panel this week on the Triple Double Show for only $49. That's pretty much $7 a day. Promo code for that is NBA7. So NBA7 is a promo code for a 7-day NBA pass for myself, Matt, Jeff Michaels, and then Tony Finn over at wagertalk.com. So head over to sportsmemo.com on a daily basis. Just see what we got going on. We utilize the free live odds page as well. And plenty of cappers provide free picks and analysis on a daily basis as well. All it takes is an email address. Everything else is free. Also, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button before you go. It only takes a couple clicks and it helps our show grow tremendously. With that said, let's get Matt up in here with me. Matt, we always try to start the show pretty transparent here. Obviously, the weekend was a big weekend, not only in NBA, but we also had the UFC card, the big UFC card. I know me and you are heavy on that. I did pretty well this weekend, 4-2 on the NBA. Once again, killed it in the UFC. Number one at SportsMemo right now in the UFC for 2023. How was your weekend this week?
Yeah, I unfortunately did not have as good of a weekend. This was actually my first losing week in, I believe, 6 weeks now. So was running in the green for week after week, and this was the first one in a while that we were in the red. So yeah, just looking to bounce back this Monday. You know, we got a pretty good slate here. This weekend, it was mostly the NBA that I actually missed. The player props just didn't go my way this weekend. Again, like I said, looking to bounce back. There's definitely some really good spots that I'm excited to highlight today. So ready to break it down with you as always.
All right, let's get into it. First game up, Bulls and the Sixers here. Bulls 33-37 on the season, currently on a 2-game winning streak. Won and covered 4 of their last 5 games, so they're playing pretty well right now. This is a one-off road game following 3 straight home games. 3rd game in 4 nights as well. Did not play yesterday, so tough travel spot here, or tough schedule spot here for the Bulls. Sixers, on the other hand, 48-22 on the season. Currently on an 8-game winning streak, so both of these teams playing pretty well right now, in good form. This is a one-off home game following 3 straight road games. These 2 teams face each other again in Chicago on Wednesday. From an injury standpoint, I see Javonte Green and Alex Caruso questionable, PJ Tucker questionable for the Sixers there. From a matchup perspective, they did split the season series so far, 1-1. Both games went over. The Bulls won the most recent one in Philly by double digits. Embiid did not play that game, so that's why it went that way. So Philly is looking for some in-season revenge here, Matt. What are your thoughts on this game here?
Yeah, I'll be honest, Ron. This is one where I go back and forth a lot just because 8.5 points really does seem like a lot. But I still find myself going with the 76ers in this spot. You know, this is a 76ers team. To your point, they've now won 8 games in a row, will be fully healthy coming into this spot. And as for the Bulls, this is a team that's playing better basketball, winning 4 out of their last 5 games. But in this spot as well, you know, they will potentially be without Alex Caruso. He is a game time decision. Kind of been in and out of that lineup as of late. And I do kind of find that being an important factor in this matchup, just for the pure fact that this Philadelphia 76ers team is so good in terms of the guard position at this point in time. You know, you have guys like James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Melton. Then you also have Shake Milton coming off the bench as well. And all guys are very, very capable of handling the basketball, distributing it, attacking the basket, things of that nature. And when you have a starting lineup that has James Harden and Tyrese Maxey in it, and Tyrese Maxey has really elevated his play up until this point in time in the season, I think you need two very quality defenders for those guys. And for the Chicago Bulls, their top two defenders at this point in time are most likely Patrick Beverley and Alex Caruso in terms of guarding that on-ball guard position. So that's one thing that I definitely think people need to keep an eye on, is if Alex Caruso is going to be declared in or out. And this is a Chicago Bulls team that has been playing far worse on the road this season, with a record of 15, 18, and 1 against the spread on the road. And, you know, this is a spot where they're heading out on the road, going back home for a one-game homestand, and then heading back out for a 3-game road trip. So kind of a weird travel spot for the Chicago Bulls team. I could definitely see the Bulls coming into Philadelphia and just kind of taking a nap in this spot. You know, like we've talked many times before, this is a Bulls team who can beat anyone throughout the NBA, and they can easily lose to anyone throughout the NBA on top of that. And this is one of those spots where I just kind of see the Bulls coming in sleepwalking. So I'm actually going to side with the Philadelphia 76ers here. They're one of the hottest teams in basketball right now, if not the hottest team in basketball. And Joel Embiid going against Nikola Vucevic, it's a great matchup. You know, Vuce does not play a ton of defense. If he gets in foul trouble whatsoever, that's a huge gap in that Chicago Bulls team, because you have Andre Drummond coming off the bench, and those are two totally different style centers. So for me, I still go with the 76ers here. Even though 8.5 is a good amount of points, I think the 76ers get it done in this spot.
Yeah, I like that look a lot. I mean, we talk about the revenge angle in this show quite a bit, and you know, we talk about some teams do well in it, and then some teams don't. And Philly is one of those teams that do well in that revenge angle. Philly are one of the best. I think they might actually be the best ATS team in the revenge angle this season. 15-3 straight up and against the spread. Average full game margin plus 10.6. If you include including 9-0 straight up and against the spread, if they're the home favorite in that situation as well. So a lot of things pointing in the Sixers direction. My best bet is on this actually total. The best bet at the end of the show will be on the total. So I'll talk about that a little bit later, but a few more things as well. In home games following a road game, so that travel spot that we see, the Sixers actually do pretty well in that spot as well. 9-2 straight up, 7-4 ATS. The average full game margin in those games is plus 8.1. So it's pretty tight to where the number is now. But if you got it at the open at -7, obviously there was a little bit of value there. On the opposite side, the Bulls, they're 0-5 straight up and against the spread in road games following at least 3 straight home games. So I talked about earlier, there's sucky travel spot. And the trends throughout the season has shown that they struggle in this spot. So the average full game margin in those games is -10.2. And to me, I think this is, just off of current form, right? And the motivation on the Philly side to, especially Embiid. You talked about Embiid against Vucevic having a great matchup. Embiid is really motivated right now. There's a lot of talk about him in the MVP race and all that stuff. And it just seems like this is a spot where Philly can take advantage. I can see them winning by double digits. Obviously, if you got it at the open number, a lot better than what you see now. But I can only look in that direction. From a prop perspective, Matt, I know you're more averse in props than I am. But what do you think about Harden and his assists? I know he's been hitting that prop quite a bit lately. It is a 10.5, so it's a high number. But one thing that I looked at was his game log versus the Bulls. He's hit 11 or more assists in 5 straight games against the Bulls. I think he's been doing pretty well lately as well. Like just in current form, he's gone over the number in 4 of his last 7 games, averaging 8.5 potential assists per game post All-Star break. So he's getting a lot of opportunity here. What are your thoughts on that prop?
Yeah, I definitely lately James Harden has been kind of a staple of a lot of my parlays or my same game parlays, just because I like running his double-double a lot of the time, and you can generally get decent odds with that. And with Embiid and James Harden, they run that high pick and roll, that pick and pop so well. And Embiid is playing such good basketball that with that high pick and roll, you know, that little pocket pass that James Harden does to Joel Embiid, he is so good at hitting that mid-range at this point in time that these assists are coming so easy for James Harden. And then you still still have guys who are athletic, like Tobias Harris, who can come in with that back cut, get that alley-oop. And like I said before, Tyrese Maxey's playing great basketball as well, even though the high percentage of James Harden's assists do come to Joel Embiid. So for me, a lot of it does come down to Joel Embiid once again. Joel Embiid is playing such good basketball. He has a great matchup with Nikola Vucevic. Not gonna lie, I personally think Vuce is a little soft in terms of his defense a lot of time, but you also do have to understand it because he's very much needed on that offensive end. And one thing you'll notice too with Joel Embiid is he does not take his time a lot of the time. So once he gets that pass, he quickly goes into that pivot, that post-up shot, whatever it may be. So you get that quick assist as well. So yeah, I do. I like James Harden's assist number. That's something I was looking at in this spot as well. So yeah, I would like that. And someone else I'm looking at who's been playing really good basketball is Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's been balling too. We talked about Tyrese early on in the season as well, and his importance to this team moving forward, especially going into the playoffs. So yeah, he's definitely a good look
So
there.
fast.
Let's move on to the Wolves. What was that?
Oh, I'd say so fast.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on to the Wolves and the Knicks here. We got the Wolves 35-37 on a 3-game losing streak, coming off a 15-point loss to the Raptors, last of a 3-game road trip for them. Third game in 4 nights as well, so a tough travel spot moving forward. I mean, I guess fatigue spot there. Knicks 3-game winning streak on their side, coming off a big win over the Nuggets. This is the last of a 2-game road trip. From an injury perspective, no one really that important on the Knicks side to be worried about as far as injuries, but a lot of questionables and doubtfuls on the Minnesota side. Rivers, Reed, and Edwards, Gobert, all questionable. Jalen Noel, doubtful. I mean, that injury of Edwards, it seems like he might be missing this game more likely than not. But he is still listed as questionable. So that's one thing to worry about with this line and the total, because his status will be, affecting the line and the total, as we go through the day. From a matchup perspective, Knicks won and covered the first matchup this season in Minnesota, 120-107. They did go under the 235.5 total. This game was in November, though. Both of these teams look drastically different now. Matt, what are your thoughts on this game here?
Yeah, so for this game, it's kind of a similar story for me. Got to kind of wait on some news, but I have a different look for this one because of the news, and it's actually the under 210.5 team total for the Minnesota Timberwolves. To your point, Ron, this is a spot where I don't believe Anthony Edwards is going to play. Rudy Gobert, I'm not so sure about. I actually hope Gobert does play because Gobert actually slows that game down a little bit, and as you know, Gobert is enormous, so it takes a lot of time for him to get up and down that court, takes time for him to come and post up, takes time for him to come out and run that pick and roll, things of that nature. So in all actuality, if Anthony Edwards does not play, this helps this team total. And then if Rudy Gobert actually is declared in, I think it helps that team total as well because all you're doing is clogging up that middle. And then in addition to that, they are going to New York to face off against the Knicks, who have the 14th overall defense throughout the NBA. And one thing with the New York Knicks, again, I'm going back to it, is how much they clog that middle. Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, two big guys who play good defense throughout the middle, which generally in turn means you have to shoot good from the outside. If you don't have Anthony Edwards, and then you already don't have Jalen Noel, who a lot of people probably don't even recall, Jalen Noel was one of their guys who could come off the bench, somewhat of a spark plug, and get this T-Wolves team some points very quickly. So without Anthony Edwards, then you're looking to guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's not that great of a jump shooter. Austin Rivers, even though he's a game-time decision, he might not play as well. We're talking Taurean Prince. We're talking Kyle Anderson. These are guys who do not shoot the basketball very well, and more often than not are guys who like to attack the basket, And if they can't attack the basket here, I think they're going to be in trouble. I don't think they're going to be able to score that many points. And, Mitchell Robinson has been playing very good defense as of late, been rebounding the basketball as of late on top of that. So, again, I really do like this look. The Minnesota Timberwolves have gone under this number when facing the Knicks in their last 4 out of 5 games on top of that. So this is actually one of my favorite spots on the slate. I do not see this Timberwolves team coming into New York playing very good without Anthony Edwards. Obviously, if Anthony Edwards does play, that might change some things. So as usual, you got to watch this injury report for a minute. But like Ron said, kind of like I said, I don't expect him to suit up. I really don't. So I think you could actually get an advantage taking this line now. So for me, it's the under 210 for the Minnesota Timberwolves team total.
Yeah, it's funny because I was actually looking at the other side of that. Not the Minnesota Timberwolves team total over, but more so the Knicks side and their team total over instead of the Minnesota team total under. One thing that I looked at on the Knicks side here on the last game of a multiple game homestand, they are 6-2 straight up and to the over, averaging a good amount, like 240 per game on the full game. But I was looking specifically towards that first quarter there. In that 8-game sample size, they're averaging 36 points per game, allowing 28.2. So there's a lot of points being scored in this first game here. I think it seems like, I mean, if you saw that game with Brunson coming back initially from his injury or from that layoff, and he was like right off the bat was scoring points in bunches. And I think that's one thing that he brings to the table is the offensive efficiency, right? Like not only can he score from mid range, from the post, and all that stuff, but he also is able to really facilitate in that role in that offense as well. There's really no other pass first. I don't even know if I want to call him pass first, but there's no real pass first point guard over on the Knicks squad. And so that's the reason why I like this one here, because he can really push the pace. He pushes the offensive efficiency when he's on the court for the Knicks, and that's going to be primarily in that first quarter, and that's where I wanted to focus. Another thing to mention as well, as home favorites versus non-conference teams, 7-3 straight up, 6-4 ATS. But like I mentioned, that first quarter is where I'm focusing, and that's where the biggest gap is for that Knicks team. 34.5 points in the first quarter, only allowing 25.9 points. So it kind of correlates with your look on that Wolves team total under. I mean, if you see that gap, that's about a 10-point gap there in that first quarter when they're the home favorite versus a non-conference opponent. On the opposite side here, you see the Timberwolves. It seems like they're down. They're typically not that strong in the first quarter on the defensive side of the ball. There's situations when they can score, but they're giving it up as well. And then when you think about Anthony Edwards and how he affects the game here, to me, I feel like it's just going to be a downward slope here for the Timberwolves. It should be a Knicks play on the first quarter if you look at the spread. But I don't know. I think you got to wait for Edwards news to confirm that he's out. If you like the Knicks side, obviously you want to take it now. I don't know. This one's tough. I mean, like there's off and on. There's news going back and forth whether he's going to play or not, but it definitely seems like he's not going to play. It's just tough to put your money on something when you're not certain if he's going to play or not. But a lot of things leading towards the Knicks side and the team total over, especially in that first quarter. Anything from a prop perspective there?
Honestly, I think this is a game I'm going to be passing on props just because of there's so much uncertainty right now. I'm not sure how the pace is going to be. I actually think this could be a slower pace game for like the T-Wolves and stuff like that, like we talked about.
Yeah.
If anything, Brunson is going to be returning to form, I'm sure. He looked great in his first game back. He just slowed down a little bit. So this might be the game he puts it all together here. He'll be going against Mike Conley. That's a very easy matchup for him. He's also a point guard who loves to play with his back to the basket. He likes to post up. He likes to have that fadeaway jumper. And who better than someone like Mike Conley? Mike Conley's got to be like 6 foot, like 175 or something, So I would imagine Brunson could take advantage of that matchup pretty well.
I like it. All right, well, let's move on to the last game here, the Kings and the Jazz. 43-27 on the season for the Kings on a 3-game winning streaks here. Won and covered 6 of their last 7 games as well. Last of a 4-game road trip. Before that 4-game homestand, before a 4 straight home games. First leg of back-to-back games with the Celtics on deck. That's a tough look-ahead spot there. The Jazz 34-36, coming off an outright win over the Celtics. They've covered 5 straight games as well. This is the second of a 4-game homestand. From an injury perspective, you got Herter and Lyles questionable for the Kings. On the Jazz side, Clarkson and Sexton were out last night. Markkanen has now been added to that list as players being out just right before the show here. So 3 key guys there missing for the Jazz. From a matchup perspective, the Kings have owned it this season, 2-0, but they did split the spread, 1-1. The over-under also split. Kings won the first matchup by 1, the second one by 2. It seems like they match up pretty well, but there's key injuries on this Jazz side. It's pretty worrisome. Matt, what are your thoughts on this one? Are you looking at a side or total or Kings games, man? I know you like the props in Kings games.
Yeah, this one will probably be a prop game for me because, as we were discussing it or even before the show, we were talking about if Markkanen was going to play or not. Markkanen is now out, so this line has moved from -5 to -6.5, and honestly didn't move all that much. I thought it would maybe move 2 or 3 points because of Markkanen, but no, it really hasn't. And this is a spot where I would still be backing the Sacramento Kings potentially. I don't know if I'm going to touch this game in terms of a side or a total. Me and you have talked about the injury replacement theory many times throughout the course of the show, and many times it has come true. This could be another spot where this injury replacement theory does come true. This Kings team has played very well on the road. They are somewhat due for a letdown spot, but if you guys have heard me talk, I say two things: don't doubt the Kings and don't doubt the Thunder. Those are two teams that I do not like to go against. I'm going to stay true to that the rest of the season. So if anything, I'll pass on this game, but couple numbers real quick. This is the last game of an extended road trip for the Sacramento Kings. Anytime the Kings have had an extended road trip of 2 games or more in their last game on that road trip, they are 6-2 straight up. Okay, so they do play very well before heading back home. This is another spot where the Sacramento Kings team will have a game before heading back home, and I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if they play well again. Kevin Huerter is a game-time decision in this spot, but with the Sacramento Kings team, they're different than any other squad just because of the fear fact they're so deep. And they have shooters all over their roster. If Kevin Huerter isn't in, Malik Monk checks into that number 2 spot, and he's someone that I can expect to play just as well. So, Malik Monk, he might be someone to take a look at props tonight because typically gets around 22 to 26 minutes. If he starts, maybe he gets 30. And that's a guy who he's had 40-point games this season. He's a guy who can absolutely go off next to De'Aaron Fox. So I think he's someone you take a look at tonight. And then another guy that I think you take a look at tonight 100% is Domantas Sabonis. For one, his triple-double tonight is plus 280. And in terms of points, rebounds, assists, his last 3 games when facing the Utah Jazz have combined for 43 PRA, 47 PRA, and 51 PRA. And in his last 2 matchups, they both had 8 assists. He had a double-double in both. Both matchups finished with 8 assists. So, that really just comes down to 2 other guys making an open shot. If your guys are hot, they knock down those shots, and you're that much more prone to getting that triple-double. So, again, I do think this is a good spot for Sabonis. I think that triple-double could be a little flirty with it tonight. It's plus 280. But in terms of a total, in terms of a side, this is one that I do find some difficulty with. So for me, I would definitely take a look at Malik Monk. I would take a look at Domantas Sabonis. And another thing that I would take a look at is Walker Kessler double-double. Last time I checked on that, it was a minus 125. Little juicy. But you got to imagine now that Markkanen is out, where the hell are these points going to come from? You're going to have to work it inside a little bit more. Like Jalen Horton. Yeah, Horton Tucker. What's his first name? Jalen? One of those.
Taylor?
But yeah, he's going to have to get more. Ojale is going to have to get more. This team does not have many pure point scorers, so they're going to have to work it inside to Kessler. So because of that, I think the double-double is a really good bet tonight. So I would take a look at that as well. But those would be my 3. Monk, Sabonis, Kessler.
Yeah, I mean, like you touch on, like, with Markkanen out, where's the offense is going to be? You already got Clarkson out as well. One thing that I just, while you were breaking that down was thinking about, what about the Jazz team total under here? I know we talk about the Kings and their offense and how they suck defensively, but if you actually look at it, they've kept they kept 5 of their last 7 opponents under their team total. I don't know, man. That could be a spot there as well as the Jazz team total under here, but like we mentioned, this is a tough schedule spot here for the Kings. Not only the last of a 4-game road trip, but they started on the East Coast. Now they're kind of going around in a circle, coming back to the West. And then they also have the first leg of back-to-back games with the Celtics on deck. I mean, the Kings, for what it's worth, being second right here, I feel like they're still trying to prove doubters wrong. Even though they're second in the West here, a lot of people feel like they're just waiting for them to kind of fall off, but they keep doubting folks. And to me, this seems like a prime look-ahead spot to kind of prove themselves against another top team here with the Celtics on deck. One thing that I looked at because of that was the look-ahead spot specifically. Since 2019, I looked at teams with a win percentage greater than 55%, facing a team with a losing record. And then they have the first leg of back-to-back games, and their opponent in the next day is a team with a winning record, 55% or more. I also filtered it for the second half of the season. So games after 41, right? Game number 41, because these games post, in the second half of the season, they're more meaningful, right? They're more meaningful from a playoff perspective, for playoff positioning and things like that. And those teams are 14-28 against the spread since 2019. That's covering at only a 33% rate. That's just to fade the Kings tonight because of that look ahead spot. The only thing is that the number has moved down from 6.5 to 5, and you're not getting the best of the number. Obviously, that 5, it seems like the Kings are just, it's hard to go against them, right? Like you said, Kings is one of those teams you don't want to fade, but that look ahead spot does look pretty strong here. The other thing that I was looking at, not only the Jazz team total under, but looking at the Jazz possibly in the first half to take advantage of that sucky travel spot early. But that was with the thought that Markkanen still had a chance to play. Now you got no Markkanen, no Clarkson. That's a tough spot there. But if you're patient enough and you think that the Jazz somehow can keep it close early in that first half, you can take the Kings in the second half. They've been one of the best second half teams, especially as road favorites. If you just look at them as road favorites in general, they're 14-3 straight up, 12-5 ATS. Full game margin is plus 5.5. So that's really tight to where the line is right now. And that's the reason why I didn't want to touch it. But that second half, they're outscoring opponents 61.7 to 55.6. So a lot of that gap is being covered in that second half when they're the road favorite. So I would say if you're patient enough and you see a nice number on a live line for the Kings, take it, because they should win this game. Regardless of how it starts, right? So that's my take on that one. There's a live look on that game. I just don't know if I can get there to the window with it pre-flop, right? Like just at the current number at 5, especially with Markkanen out. With that said, man, I think we went through a lot of stuff here with the games that we talked about. Matt, let's get to the best bet section here. Let's start with you and also talk about what you got going on the premium side.
Yeah, guys, it is officially bounced back for me this week. Uncharted territory after the past couple weeks, and I got 2 plays loaded, looking to get it rolling this Monday. Start off on the right foot. And for me, this one's kind of different. We haven't done many assist props up until this point, but this one is going to be Draymond Green over 6.5 assists. We got the Rockets and Warriors facing off. We got Draymond Green and Curry over my shoulders. And like we've talked about many times, these are the games that I like to target. The Golden State Warriors have now lost 11 straight road games. They got to be sick of hearing that. You would think so, at least. And now they're facing the Houston Rockets, who no better team really to bounce back against. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rockets kept it close, though. I think they're giving the Warriors a little too much respect with, I believe it's an 11-point spread at this point in time. Mm-hmm. So kind of heavy, but a perfect situation for Draymond Green to get out and run and hit this over 6.5 assists. This is also plus money at plus 110. And this is also a play, I'm not going to lie, I am considering laddering this, doing 8 assists, 10 assists, because if this game stays close, it should be a very, very good opportunity for Draymond Green and this Golden State Warriors team. And, we're looking at him in this spot for one, because you also have to look at someone like Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson has put up 40-plus points against the Houston Rockets in 2 straight games, and Draymond Green is the facilitator of that offense, getting guys like Steph Curry, Klay, Dante DiVincenzo involved. And I say this because the Houston Rockets are the 29th ranked team in terms of defensive efficiency and the 30th ranked team in terms of 3-point field goals given up per game. And then they're also 28th in 3-point field goal percentage given up per game. You guys know how that Draymond Green pick and roll works with Steph Curry, with Klay Thompson. It's a quick little handoff. Or you get out on the fast break, you outlet pass it to one of those guys, DiVincenzo, Klay, Curry, and they start making their shots. So for me, when I looked at this, I originally looked at rebounds plus assists, and I believe that was at 13.5. And, when you have a pace-up matchup, when it's fast-paced, a lot of scoring, stuff like that, sometimes rebounds can become tough to obtain. So that's why I kind of went away from that for Draymond and tended to go towards the assists. And I think this is a great look for Draymond and those assists. I think Klay has another great game against this Houston Rockets team. Klay has missed his number, I believe, in 3 straight games, and Draymond Green has missed his assist prop in 3 straight games. So I think this is just one of those scenarios where the two come together. This Warriors team is sick and tired of hearing how bad they are on the road. And honestly, they might play bad on the road again. That's just fine. I want this game to stay close. But I do think this Warriors team does win this game. And in the process, Draymond Green goes over his assist total. And I also think Klay Thompson hits his point prop on top of that.
I like that look. I mean, I think you're not far off when you're saying that the Rockets can keep this close full game, especially with how the Warriors have been playing on the road. I agree with you though. I do think the Warriors should win that game, but the Rockets probably going to keep it close there. For me, my best bet is going back to one of the games that we talked about earlier, the Bulls and the Sixers. I do like that overlook in that game. You could it is. I can see you can get it at 224.5 last night. It's back up to 225 at some books here. I still like it. I feel like they're going to get over the 228 mark. That would probably be the threshold for me to take that over. Both teams, even though they're playing the bottom three pace post All-Star break, Philly's first in offensive rating. The Bulls are fifth in offensive rating post All-Star break. So the offensive efficiency is there. And you got a couple of guys here that are questionable who typically affect the total. You got Alex Caruso, a defensive-minded player. When he's not in the lineup, their defense takes a hit. Their pace moves up a little bit quicker. PJ Tucker, questionable for the Sixers. Obviously, their pace goes a little bit short. Their pace picks up a little bit, and their offensive efficiency actually takes a positive hit. It goes up a little bit, right? So those are a couple of things that I looked at from an injury perspective that affects that total. But just from a league-wide perspective or a trend perspective, Philly, they do well in revenge angles, right? I talked about that, 15-3 straight up and against the spread. But they also tend to go to the over in those revenge games. Their offense really is the driver for it to go over on their side here. If you include that they're home favorites in that spot, I mentioned the 9-0 ATS spot there, but they're also 6-3 to the over in those games. In home games following a road game in that travel spot, I mentioned how they do well in that straight up and ATS spot as well, but they're 9-2 to the over in that spot. Averaging 232.5 per game. On the Bulls side, they're 3-2 to the over, averaging a combined 232.2 points per game when they're on the road, following at least a three-game homestand. So the travel spot there affects their defense. The fatigue is affecting their defense, giving up a bunch of points in that spot as well. To me, that's the only way that I could look is this Philly game in the Bulls going over 224.5, 225. Like I said, I would take it up to 228. I don't think it'll get there, but I think it from a line perspective, but I believe that it's going to get there from a game perspective. I think that's where it ends up, possibly over 230 in my book. So just the offensive efficiency is is really on point right now. Embiid with that motivation to get that MVP. I think he's really going to push the pace and get a bunch of points here against seems like an easy matchup against Vucevic here. So that's the way that I'm going to go. I do have only two plays up there on my premium side. This one is one of them. So this over is a premium play. The last time I took a Sixers over, it did not hit. And Tony Finn warned me after the show. He said, hey, I think the Philly team is going to do their part, but I don't know if the Hornets are. That's exactly what happened. The Hornets hit their team total. The Sixers hit their team total and the Hornets did not. But this is a situation where I feel like the Bulls should be able to keep up with them and keep this to go over, the pace to go over. With that said, Matt, any last words before we cut out here?
No, man, ready to start the week on the right foot. We got some solid games, some high totals, some pace-up spots, and I have two plays as well. And kind of like you said, Ron, for me, when I give out my best bet is almost always an official play. And, the best bets have been kind of up and down as of late, trying to get back to what we had earlier in the year, hit 12 in a row at one point, and just trying to get that consistency back, and heading down the stretch, going to start betting those teams where every single game matters. The best players got to come to play. They got to show out. So I think we're going to really hit a nice hot streak on this show to end the season going into the playoffs. So really just looking to get it started this Monday, guys.
Yeah, I remember that streak with 12. I think you mentioned it, 12 straight best bets. I think I had like a 9-1 run as well, right before yours ended. So man, yeah, hopefully we get on a hot streak like that again. With that said, guys, this is the end of the show. Our next show will be on Wednesday. I believe we have Tony Finn from wagertalk.com. Same time, same channel, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard on YouTube here. Till then, good luck with all your action. Peace.
Play ball. Hot off the press, handicappers from Wager Talk, SportsMemo, and the Gold Sheet have collaborated on the 2023 Wager Talk Media MLB Betting Guide. From World Series odds to regular season win totals and everything in between, this year's betting guide features previews on all 30 teams, all 6 divisions, and season-long awards like the Cy Young, MVP, and Rookie of the Year. Each preview contains key roster acquisitions and departures to help you get up to speed before opening day. Visit wt.buzz/MLB23 to download your free guide, and we'll see you in the batter's box.